Hi, this is Mrs. Knopf, and today we are going to continue in our new method book on the flute with line 15, Au clair de la lune. And this line uses the same three notes that we just played in a previous video, hot cross buns. So we're going to go at the beginning and we're going to walk our way through this before we play. So at the very beginning, we always have a treble clef, and that's what flute players read when they play their music. And then we have our key signature. This is fairly new. It was just introduced in line 14. So we have two flats in our key signature. And in music, when you have a key signature, the flats will always show up in the same place in the same order every time. They will not move around. So when we have two flats, the first flat is always a B flat, and you'll find it on the third line. This tells you that all Bs, whether on the third line or an octave higher or lower, they will all be B flats, unless there is something else that tells you differently. So we start with three B flats at the beginning. We have a B flat here, and we end the first line on a B flat. And then we have the same pattern following on the second line. Our second flat in our key signature will always be an E flat. And it is always located on the fourth space, but it doesn't matter if the note is on the fourth space E or if it's somewhere else, maybe on the first line, maybe it's above the staff. But as long as it's an E and there's a flat in the key signature, it's going to be an E flat. We don't have any E flats in this song, so that's okay. Then we have our time signature. We are in 4/4 time. We have 4 beats in every measure, and the whole note gets 4 beats. So we're going to use that to break down our note values. So we have a whole note in the very last measure. It gets 4 beats. It's in the measure by itself. When we have half of that, half of a whole is a half note, half of 4 is 2. So when we come across these half notes in measures 2, 4, and 6, then they get 2 beats each. We also have a half rest in measure 4. That is also going to get 2 beats. And then all of the notes that are colored in are quarter notes. Half of a half is a quarter, half of 2 is 1. So all of those quarter notes get 1 beat each in 4/4 time. So now we're going to go through what our notes are. So as I said before, we start on a B flat. So we have this thumb, the first finger, and the pinky. And we play 3 of those B flats in a row. If you don't start each note with that sound, it's going to sound pretty muddy. So you want to make sure that you use lots of air and you start each note with a t sound and let the air sustain the sound. Well, we only play 3 of those B flats before we lift our thumb and our first finger at the same time and play a quarter note C, which is on the third space. Then we go into the next measure and we switch out all of our fingers at the same time. That is a D on the 4th line. So thumb, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, no pinky. That is your D. We give it 2 beats, and then we switch everything out again to go back to the C. So remember, C is first finger and pinky only, no thumb. So we hold that for 2 beats, and then we add our first finger and our thumb for the B flat, skip up to the D on the 4th line, and then down to the C in the 3rd space. We play 2 of those, and then we end this line on a B flat. I hope you've noticed that the first line and the second line are almost identical. So measure 1 and measure 5 are exactly the same with notes and rhythms. Measures 2 and 6 are the same. Measures 3 and 7 are the same. The only difference between the 2 lines would be measure 4 has a half note, half rest, and measure 8 has a whole note, but they're the same pitch. So we just end up holding this last note for 4 full counts. So if you need to kind of stop and break things down a little bit, especially with measure 3, because you're skipping around and you may not be used to that yet, then spend some time going from one note to the next and just kind of going back and forth, and then add the next note until you're a little more used to it. But if you already have it, that is fantastic. So you'll get through this very easily. Let's go ahead and play line 15, Au clair de la lune, starting on B flat. 1, 2, ready. And that is it for line 15. Like I said, if you have trouble with any of it, then take it apart. Find 1 or 2 notes and just work on those, and then add more notes as you feel better about it. I hope this is helpful, and we'll see you next time.